Mr. Olaleye Quadri, the president of TUC, joins us now to give his perspective on the developments and perhaps what to expect. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. So, yes, Labour in conversation with the federal government on some of these demands. So, just bring us up to speed. What is Labour asking of government?
Good morning.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, good morning. What we requested from government, first of all, let me refer to some of the comments I had on this channel about the man that just spoke, about Labour going to a roundtable with government to discuss the way forward. Let me bring to your notice that we have written several letters to federal government of Nigeria on alternative way of running the economy. And you all will attest to it that on Punch, dated 30th of April 2020, TUC wrote a letter to government on alternative way to run the economy, where we spoke about the post-COVID economic recovery, where we made mention of diversifying the economy. And it was because we didn't get a positive response from government. And that is where we have to react now, that there is increase in PMS and other valuable services to Nigerian workers and the populace. This government has refused to listen to Labour. Before now, there has never been any meeting between Labour and government since COVID-19. And now that they have increased the price of PMS and also increased electricity tariff, and also introduced what we know as the stamp duty, all these are eating on the little salary that we have.
But
you are well informed.
What he's saying is, even though you've not answered the first question, what I think he's saying is that why does Labour have to wait until this position by government, when they take this step, before you then respond? Because what he's saying is, first is that if you had a template and a plan that you had submitted to the government, which they were supposed to implement on a quarterly basis or in different phases, if they default at phase 2 or 3, then you raise issues. And phase 2 or 3 doesn't necessarily have to be when there is a fuel price, either deregulation or fuel hike. That's the point he's waiting. He thinks Labour usually waits for this to happen. Then when you go on strike, max is 3-4 naira difference, and then 2-3 years later, you're back to the same position.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that this time around we took a preventive method by writing to federal government calling for discussion since April 2020. That letter has been delivered to Mr. President, and up to now we have not been called to discuss. And we have provided alternative way of running the economy, which we mention how to introduce modular refineries to make them work, and also to spend enough money to make our refineries work, so that there will be no issue of exchange rate that is causing the increase in the price of PMS. But this government will not listen to Labour, except we put an action. So after waiting for a long time, and all this happened, we have no other options than to send ultimatum to the federal government.
All right, so Mr. Quadri, could you tell us what is Labour asking of governments this time?
Yeah, this time around, what we're asking governments is that no matter the plan they have for the future, they should first of all reverse the increase in the price of PMS, then also reverse the increase in tariff of electricity. These two things are very, very important to Nigerian workers and the populace at large. Then we cannot be discussing way forward. Like I explained, on the increase in PMS, the PPPRA has a format that they use in calculating what price should PMS be sold. And we discovered that out of all about 13 items used in the calculation, about 11 are fixed. The remaining 2 are variable that can change anytime. And the most important one is the exchange rate. So over a time, PPPRA have written letter to Mr. President to talk to Central Bank of Nigeria to provide enough forex for the importers of these PMS to be able to bring in the PMS needed at ease. And they should provide that forex at the official exchange rate. But the problem is that based on the information we have, these importers don't have enough forex. So they have no other option than to go to black markets to get it at a higher rate. And that is what is causing the increase in the price. Since the Mr. President has that capacity and the power to authorize Central Bank of Nigeria to provide it at official rate, I think it's very simple for Mr. President to do that. Then the next question is, why are we not having enough forex for these people? It means we have to do a kind of holistic audit or forensic audit to see how we make use of the available forex. It means we have some illegal usage of that forex. That is why it's not enough. And that is what we are telling Mr. President. We are engaging them constructively to let us look for solution. But the problem is that they are not listening to us. Look at the increase in tariff of electricity. Does it mean Nigerians should continue to pay for inefficiency of Disco, Genco, and the rest? I want to refer you back to a minister sometimes ago who mentioned that they deliberately sold off Disco, Gensco to their friends. It means whatever the government is doing now is to put more money in the pocket of their friends. So we cannot be paying for inefficiency of the Disco and Gensco. You remember at the beginning of this regime,
just
Mr.
a moment.
President promised that to provide prepaid meters to everybody free of charge.
Well, those are issues. Those are issues you have raised really about the power sector. A lot of issues really about the rise in the tariff. But when you spoke about what happens with petroleum importers, how you say forex is being gotten in the black market, I'm not quite sure that is how it works. But the question now is, you are saying the government should revert to the previous price, and are you saying that subsidy should be returned, because that would mean the government has to step in to make up for that that difference? Are you asking for subsidy to be returned? And one wonders, don't forget that subsidy is not in 2020 budget, so how will that be provided for? And what happened in 2016? Because it was controversially removed, the price went up, and it appears as though Labour did not do anything. So what exactly do you want the government to revert back to?
Now, the issue is that as far as Labour is concerned, subsidy have been removed for a long time, even before 2016. And if you remember during the last regime, when the central bank governor was still Governor Sanusi then, you remember that they made presentation that they were going to remove subsidy. And we all believe that subsidy have been removed. I wonder, how did they subsidize? Where did they subsidize from? I don't understand that. I don't understand, because most of the time we keep on talking about subsidy, and there is no subsidy on this thing. We are talking of exchange rate to be given. Central bank decide that official exchange is 360, and before they can do that, it means they have enough forex to provide for genuine importers. If they are be giving forex to people that are doing other businesses, well, that should not be at the expense of Nigerian workers.
But Mr. Quadri, I'm just wondering, when you say that they should provide forex so that people don't get it from the parallel market, one wonders, this has always been the case, providing forex. Now, assuming they keep providing forex, how does that affect the price of fuel? Because the value of the naira to the dollar will keep changing. What is Labour proposing such that we earn this forex in that, as much as we require, such that they can buy this product right here? So what's your proposal to the government about that?
Our proposal to the government is that government should revive our refineries. The Minister of Petroleum State mentioned during his public address that our refineries have not been working for almost 5 years. And we keep on spending billions in maintaining those refineries. So the issue is that why don't we, if we are removing subsidy, why don't we use that subsidy over years since 2016 till now? Why don't we use that savings to revive the refineries. They promised that they are going to have modular refineries. We told them, okay, let us have a program that on yearly basis, this is the numbers of modular refineries that we are going to bring up. But there's no record to that.
So what have they told you, or did you ask? Because even right from recent history, 1999, the former President Obasanjo, Jonathan, even this government, they've issued licenses. So assuming maybe this government has issued 38 licenses and 10 of them have expired, the phases of these licenses, have you found out why is it that they issue licenses and people or refineries are still not functional? New refineries haven't cropped up apart from one or two of these current ones that we know. What is the challenge there? Why are they not being addressed? Have you raised them?
We have raised all these questions. We even accused government that you are good in issuing licenses without follow-up. So if you carry labor along, this is the numbers of licenses we have issued over the time.
Okay, then, sorry, what did you identify as the reason why those who they issued these licenses are not able to come on stream? What are the reasons?
Well, I believe the reason is because government is not following up with them. It's not enough to issue licenses, but you have to follow up, you have to assist. We even suggested that some of those refineries in Niger Delta that they were saying they are illegal refineries, let us standardize them. Let's help them with SON, NAFDAC to work with them, to make them formalize them so that they can refine what their locality can consume. And by then, we don't need we are not going to have the issue of forex.
Mr. Quadri, you talked about the refineries not working and what your union is doing, what Labour has been trying to do about that. It's on record that even on the website of DPR, that some of these refineries, their productivity began to taper down from like the mid-90s. And if you check the front pages of some of the papers this morning, you'll find out that some of them have not produced anything since between 2016 and 2017. Throughout that time, we didn't hear that Labour protested that these refineries are not working. Now, over the years, even since the beginning of this Fourth Republic, no one heard that Labour was protesting that the refineries were not working, consequence of which would be increase in petroleum prices. How is it that we didn't hear from Labour any time about the refineries not working, but we only hear from Labour whenever there is a fuel price hike? How is that?
Well, what I will tell you on that is that most of the time we try to engage the government, put pressure on them to do what they are supposed to do. But government don't listen to Labour most of the time. And it is only when it affects everybody that we have to come out. We have to come out to protest. I can tell you we have a lot of research book on how to revive the refineries. If you want it, I can send a copy to you, but the government would not listen. I've just mentioned a letter that has been written since April on alternative way of running the economy. Up to now, government has not called us for discussion. It's only when there is problem and Labour speak out that they call us to discuss. So we do a lot, but it's only when it affects the public that we come to react and everybody see us.
Say that it's sometimes Labour reacts only when it affects Labour directly. One of the things that you heard on the soundbite before you came on was that that man, Alfred Kemekwado, was saying that sometimes after all such conversations with Labour, that government will give Labour leaders some money, and consequently they will just come back and say, you know, okay, we can now go back to work. With very marginal removal of money that has been increased. Is it true that Labour usually gets money from government whenever they go for these consultations?
Well, I'm sure everybody is entitled to his own opinion or his view. But as far as I am concerned, as the president of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, we have never benefited anything financial from government, and we are not going to request for that. Because whatever government gives to us, how does that translate to the well-being of our members. So we don't do that. Well, if he has his evidence, he can publish it. But I want to show understanding that he has his own opinion. He's also encouraging us and giving us caution not to do that. So I appreciate him for that.
All right. So at the moment, you say you're asking government to revert the tariffs in fuel and that of electricity. But we also know
And
that
stamp duty as well.
and stamp duty. Right. But we also know. So if the money that have already been collected, are they supposed to return it to the customers who they've collected these monies from?
That would be very difficult, but at least where we are now, let them reverse it so that the price can go to where it was yesterday.
So is that to say that if that doesn't happen and Labour goes on strike on September 28th, Labour will not accept 2 naira reduction or 3 naira reversal of the petroleum pump price? It's your demands or nothing?
Yeah, let me clarify something. We have 2 ultimatums given. TUC has given 7 days ultimatum, which we expire on the 22nd Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, if government have not answered to our questions, then we shall mobilize and move to the streets. Then we are going to down tool. Then NSC has given 2 weeks ultimatum, which is going to expire maybe on the 27th, and action will be taken on the 28th. We are going to follow these 2 ultimatums judiciously. And we are not talking about reducing the price by 2 naira or 3 naira. What we are saying is that they should reverse it back to where we were in July. So, and that is the price that will be acceptable by the Nigerian workers.
Continue subsidy.
Hello?
Okay, well, just before we wrap up, I mean, some of those who have those licenses actually say the reasons for some of them is that there are different phases, and those phases are capital intensive, and banks wouldn't fund it. So they thought that these are some of the issues that they expect Labour to have waded in and see how does government look at those processes and make it a lot easier with a lot of funding and financing template and structure to enable them come on stream. But I guess we'll have to look at this conversation at a later date. But we do thank you for your time this morning, Olaleye Quadri, President of TUC.
Thank you for having me.